So what have you found that's worked very well, and what things have kind of presented themselves as unexpected challenges in your piloting within Zambia?
Well, we sold 26,000 kits into the trial areas. We used vouchers to stimulate demand initially, so we've still got to thoroughly test whether it will work in a purely cash situation, but the vouchers stopped more than a year ago, and sales continue. We got, as I say, 45, we asked mothers at the end of the trial, had their child had diarrhea in the last 2 weeks? About 30% of them said yes. And then if they said yes, we said, and how did you treat it? And 45% said they used one of our kits. Another finding was we reduced the distance between the house and ORS from 7.3 kilometres to 2.4. The 7.3 was the average distance to the health centre, 2.4 the average distance to a shop that supplied this kit. In Zambia, there was no ORS available in the private sector in rural areas, so the only source was the health centre. Another big finding was that 93% of women mixed up the ORS correctly using our kit. Only 60% did when they were given a litre sachet. Another key finding was that before we started, we asked women whether they thought ORS was an effective treatment for diarrhea, and a very high percentage of people said yes. In fact, it was 78%. However, after 12 months, it was 92%. And we think that's a combination of them mixing the ORS correctly and the fact that it's combined with the zinc. Yeah.
So you had good success with uptake of zinc, because that's a newer product recommendation for diarrheal disease.
Yeah, and essentially the only zinc children were getting was through this kit. Yeah, well, it was less than 1% before we started, and that's a combination of things. And Zambia isn't unusual in that. I think the figure for Kenya is 0.34% or something like that, which is incredible, really, when you think it's been a recommendation for so long.
So as you've tracked all of this progress and kind of marked your successes, where are you headed next in terms of scaling the ColaLife model?
Well, you asked earlier what one of the surprises. One of the surprises was the kits going into the crates was not important at all. So only 4% of the kits went into crates. So that was a surprise. And then we've sort of looked at all the other learning from the trial and incorporated it into the new kit. And the key things are we can ditch the packaging that we were originally using, which is good because that's quite expensive. It had to be especially made. This packaging is, comes from a standard preform and it's just blown into a new mould. In terms of the ORS, we found that 90% of women only used 4 of these sachets. So that's 800 mils. And here we are giving them 2 litre sachets. So the scale up has 4 sachets in it, not 8. The trial has stimulated our pharmacy partner to produce their own zinc. There was no local manufacturer of zinc when we started. And so that gives us the opportunity to influence the packaging of that. We've had great success with this in terms of getting compliance to measuring of the ORS through design. We want to do get the message of the 10 days over by designing the blister pack in a more creative way. We found that 30% or 33% of women actually did give the zinc for 10 days, but we think we can get it up by doing things like that. The soap, this soap came in from India. It's a 20-gram bar of soap. We've persuaded the only soap manufacturer in Zambia to produce a smaller soap. They've got their eye on 2 markets, the tourism business, but also they're going to put this on a long strip and have it just hung in small shops, and this will be a fraction of the price of the bigger bars of soap. So they'll sell it that way, and also, of course, it will go into our kits. So this will become 100% Zambian product.
Wow, impressive. Very good. So Can you describe for us your plans for monitoring ColaLife's progress as you move from pilot to scale within Zambia? I know you've had some innovative thought about electronic data collection and monitoring kind of retail sales.
We used tablets, or the contractor that did the survey work for the project used tablets to gather all the household data, and we also did retailer surveys. And it was sort of 2 months ago, and I thought we could do this for sort of codifying the technical support and the sales support we're giving to retailers, because the retailers are visited ideally once a month, and we check whether they've got the product in the right place on the shelf, whether they've got the sign outside the shop, and so on. So we've put all that onto a tablet now, and we're gathering extra information like sales, whether the person's been trained or not that you're interviewing, where the retailer is, and all that sort of thing. But of course we're losing control now. In the trial we had a key set of trained retailers, we had the wholesalers we were working with, we were in specific districts who were controlling the retail price. Now the product is just available for anyone to buy, so we're sort of losing control. So we'll be working with some of the retailers that we're training, but other retailers we won't even know they exist. But we will be collecting that information on an ongoing basis with a subset of the retailers that we'll continue to train.
Okay, great. And are you considering any additional countries as a part of scaling in the future? Or if you haven't, what factors would go into the consideration process for identifying a country like Zambia that would be an ideal setting for this type of work?
The first thing to say is we want countries to identify themselves. ColaLife is a minuscule organisation. There are, it's got no paid employees, for example. And our strategy for impact is that we make our findings as widely known as we possibly can. We give away our designs, we give away the learning, so that we can influence the really big players in this, who are the national governments, international NGOs, local NGOs, so that we can influence their child health strategies moving forward. I mean, one thing, I'm not quite sure how widely this applies, and that is why it's important that local people adapt it to their own needs. But in Zambia, this fast-moving consumer goods channel has been ignored by the public health sector. Now, of course, it can't be used for most things. It can't be used for vaccines. It can't be used for giving IV injection or anything like that. But it can be used for over-the-counter things like ORS and zinc. And bear in mind that ORS and zinc is a treatment for diarrhea, which is the second biggest killer of children. We can have a huge impact if we just do this. Some would say that medicalizing diarrhea and keeping it in the public health sector has actually reduced access.
I think that's an interesting perspective to hear, because you sometimes hear that people don't think of ORS and zinc as treatments that will be that effective because they're not marketed as medicines. But I think you're right to say that we need to think more innovatively about this and getting it to the people in a format that is, accessible and adaptable and appropriate for
desirable, aspirational.
Right.
Let's get some of that stuff in there as well. And the other thing, this whole thing relies absolutely on public-private partnership, but at the community level. So although this is going through that fast-moving consumer goods channel, it's absolutely essential that you have the public health people at the community level involved as well. Because if the health centre doesn't think this is a good product or has problems with it, then you're dead in the water, because people rely on the health centre for so much, not just for diarrhea. If the health centre is not partnering with you and promoting the product or raising awareness of the product at least, then it's not going to work. The other thing that needs to happen as well is that when you're promoting ORS and zinc. A lot of public sector organisations or NGOs are uncomfortable with promoting a particular product, so they will promote ORS and zinc generically, which is fine. But then the message needs to be not, if your child has diarrhea, it needs ORS and zinc, and go to the health centre. It should be, your child needs ORS and zinc, and start treating as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And going to the health centre may actually delay treatment.
Yeah.
The key thing. So the key thing is to start that treatment as soon as you possibly can. It doesn't matter where you get your ORS and zinc from. It doesn't have to be the public sector.
Yeah.
It might be, but
Right.
it doesn't have to be.
Right. And you're increasing the options that people have
Yes, exactly.
available.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So you mentioned other products that, you know, might be well suited, would be other over-the-counter types of medicines or health products. Do you have specific thoughts about what kind of products might be ripe for this type of model or intervention, or, you know, improving access?
It would be very easy at this point to go off on a tangent and say, gee, that was good, now let's see what else can we do. But what we've decided to do is follow through from the trial through to scale up with this product. And I think it's really up to other people who are health professionals to make a judgment about what else could be done in this way. I mean, I've had ideas about, you know, a tough toddler kit. You know, what would a tough toddler kit have in it? The sort of thing that a 2-year-old would need. You know, deworming maybe, and micronutrients or whatever, sweet. You know, to sort of again commoditize another pretty safe set of medicines that would be appropriate for a particular situation. But I'm not qualified to say really what that should be.
So I know the idea of ColaLife developed out of innovative thinking about business partnerships and kind of rethinking some of our ideas about how we can build on other work that's already being done. Can you speak to the process of building those partnerships and sustaining them over time, or do you have any advice for others that are seeking to do the same type of thing?
Yeah, one thing, the reason this has taken so long is because when I first had the idea, it was very difficult to gather people around an idea, to share an idea and gather people around. You know, we had a telex machine when this whole thing first started. But that's all changed. We have social media, so it's very easy now to share ideas and share them quickly and actually get them knocked down very quickly by people who know better than you or whatever. And that's what we've done with this. Sharing the idea has brought experts in. I mean, the one reason I'm sitting here is because one of those first experts was Prashant Yadav, who was a very early supporter and encouraged us, you know, on the route that we've taken. And the only reason I know Prashant is because we hooked up online. The other thing that the online thing has done is it's given us power. We, at the initial stages, needed to get Coca-Cola's attention. We needed to get UNICEF's attention at international level. I tried, and I failed to do that as an individual person. Once you've got 1,000 people on Facebook, it becomes a different matter. It's a sort of trade union effect. The other thing that being online has done is given us a huge sense of responsibility. We feel we're in a sort of goldfish bowl doing what we're doing. And I'm always thinking, you know, what's the story? You know, what can I take away from this visit, from this meeting that's going to interest our supporters? And that really makes it sharpens you up. And I think those are the main things. It's, you know, we've got the capacity to share things now that we didn't have before.
Yeah. Well, that's great. All of us here at the Institute and at the university will be tracking your progress and look forward to your future successes. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you, Lisa.